Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you again for tuning in. My name is Jason,
And I am John.
and we just watched a really good hockey game.
Yes, we did.
Another really good hockey game. Because this has been not just the UNO games, but the multitude of stuff that they've done in the pod here coming into the final weekend. I have just been overly impressed with it. It's exciting hockey. All of the, there's been very few blowout games. Things are close. We've had overtimes and shootouts and
And
exciting stuff.
different teams winning. It hasn't always been predictable. And some of the underdog teams have had some real success so far, which has been kind of cool.
Yeah, and there's been some movement in national polls and stuff with Omaha coming into the top 20, St. Cloud moving up. Denver dropped down, North Dakota dropped down a little bit. I think Duluth has dropped down, but just mostly because of what the other teams have done in their conferences and stuff. So it's nice to see the conference performing at the level that we always expect the NCHC to perform at.
Yeah, it's been a neat deal. It almost makes you, as I mentioned before, it almost makes you wish that they could have some sort of like holiday festival in future years when we're not dealing with raging global pandemics. And not something this long, obviously, because people would be ticked and the schools would be ticked because they'd be giving up home games and home revenue. But it would be cool if they could do some like little showcase or something with like a few of the teams like once a season at one of the campus sites, and it would rotate around every year. And it'd be kind of fun to have that either like a weekend or during the Christmas break, like maybe like a week or something of a few games. It'd be kind of fun. It'd be fun.
I miss the days in NCAA hockey where it was tournament based. There used to be a time where you'd have conference games, and sprinkled in between conference games, you would go for a weekend to play. Go to the Northeast, and you'd play uh, New Hampshire and Maine and Quinnipiac or something.
Yeah, you do one of those little trips, and UNO, I remember in the past did those, and it's been a long time since they've had one of those like road
Yeah,
swings out to the New England states, and it was
but it
kind
was
of
always
fun.
nice. Yeah, it was always nice because you got to see a team that you probably didn't get to see,
Yeah,
and you got that little bit of like next level competitive edge in that oftentimes it was, you come out, for example, I remember Denver doing that Northeastern swing. Um, I think the tournament was even called the Nor'easter at the time. Uh, it's just funny. And we saw Northeastern the first game, and it was the winner of our game played the winner of the next game, and it was like this mini tournament or something, and there was a trophy, and I'm sure there was bragging rights and whatnot and stuff, and um, Denver had one for a long time, the
yeah,
the
we
Rocky
actually,
Mountain Showcase,
and then the Denver Cup, and we actually
and then the Denver Cup. Yeah,
we went, and I think they still do the Denver Cup.
I
I
don't
don't
think so.
because we're in the conference, and we have been since we joined the WCHA back in 2010. Um, we haven't gotten to go out there. Bridget and I went out a couple times, and that was a lot of fun. And I remember when UNO, obviously, for many years, they had the Maverick Stampede to start the season. And that was when we were the travel partner of Alaska Fairbanks. So we got a couple of exempted games because we had to travel outside the continental United States to play. And there were a lot of fun teams for that. I mean, it was a great opportunity to see teams you rarely got to see, as you were saying. It was fun to get to see Boston College come to Omaha, and you would have a team like Niagara, and just a lot of some of those kind of like I remember Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute came to town, and it's like how often are they going to come to Omaha to play hockey? So I love
Right.
that thing, and ultimately they ended up getting rid of it. But I would love to see them get back to doing like a holiday tournament or even the early season tournament, because I think that those things are a lot of fun.
And I think it wouldn't be something that would be too difficult. I think you've proven that Baxter can handle it, so that would be one thing.
Yeah,
Um, but then you could also do something cool like, all right, have a partnership with, um, I don't know, Boston, since you mentioned Boston College or something, like have have Boston in and say, okay, we'll go out to Boston. They can put on a tournament. We'll go there for their tournament every year. They'll come here every year for our tournament. So we always know that Boston's in the tournament. They get to pick a team that we get to play, and we get to pick a team that they get to play. And the hope is that you see Boston in the second game every year or something, you know.
See, they
But
need
just have that travel partner kind of thing.
they
And
need to just allow us to participate in the bean pot, you know.
I so like you talk about bucket list things. Bucket list for me is to go see BUBC in the Beanpot. Like I'm a hockey fan, so I will. Most people who know me well know me. I will watch. I will go watch Mite hockey just for some stupid reason. I will just go watch hockey. Like I like watching hockey. I don't care what level, but that's one of those like just the idea of being able to see BUBC is like totally a bucket list thing. And someday I'm just gonna bite the bullet and say I'm doing it. Was not going to be this year, even if it didn't have the pandemic, but
Yeah, and I remember the Michigan schools as part of their college hockey at the Joe programming. They had they've had the Great Lakes Invitational over the years, and I always thought that would be a fun thing to participate in. Those are just kind of it would be kind of fun. You're just speaking of the Bean Pod and the Great Lakes Invitational. It would be kind of fun if obviously we don't have teams like really close to us like some of those schools, but it would be cool if we banded together with some of the other schools kind of here in the region and did a fun thing like that. You know, a couple of Western teams versus a couple of Eastern teams. It'd be fun.
or I think the most obvious one to me is Minnesota State Mankato, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
not in the same conference. We don't typically get to see them. They have the same mascot. It's just it seems like that would
We
be a
play
prime
we
opportunity.
play for that we still play for that Spirit of the Maverick award with them. It's still at somebody's campus site. We just haven't played them for a while, and
Yeah.
that's always a fun matchup. So yeah, that would be kind of a cool one to do. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully maybe
I just
someday, yeah.
yeah, I'd love to see the NCAA get back to that. Maybe UNO can make that happen. Maybe this is the spark that lights that fire because it
Since
would be
they've
pretty cool.
shown what a great job they can do hosting this, and you've got the lodging close by and everything else, it'd be good. Plus, if there's flu or something going around, we have the medical facilities here that will allow us to test people and all that stuff. So there you go.
So after that rant about what we'd like to see changes, let's talk about the game that we saw.
Yes.
Um, First period, I think you agree from the text going back and forth. It wasn't the best outing for UNO. We looked out of whack.
Yeah, in particular, the first 5 minutes were awfully difficult on Seville because Minnesota Duluth was, buzzing around our net for that period. And it was looking very likely that something was going to go in on net. And I think they just looked like they were going through the motions out there. I don't know if they were tired. I don't know if it was just midweek malaise. I don't know if because they played
Something
so
about
many
finals week. Yeah.
finals week. I don't know if it's because they played so many late games that this is the time of day that they normally take a nap to, kind of refill the batteries for those late games. I don't know, but it looked a little bit ugly out there.
And then we get a power play, and I'm thinking, okay, well, let's get back on our horses. We're gonna do this. And we're on the power play. This is what we need to kind of gather some momentum out of this. And unfortunately, in short work, Swaney for Duluth nets a shorthanded goal, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. I really
Yeah.
thought that was gonna just bury us, and Duluth they pushed back after that, trying to get a second one. I think Omaha, to their credit, were able to skate out of the first period just down the goal, but yeah, that was an unfortunate broken play that ended up with a good pass across the seam to Sweeney.
Yeah, absolutely. It was Yeah, it was ugly, and I didn't know at that point how things were going to go. It felt a little bit like the game against Miami that we lost 1-0 at that point. It just didn't seem like we had the jump, um, that we had the energy in our step that we normally do. So I don't know what was going on. I have no idea. I could tell Jason via text was not happy. He's not happy.
I was not happy. That was not that was not a good period for us. But second period comes. Unfortunately, I'm thinking this isn't good because we typically don't play well in the second period.
Yeah, we've had our ups and downs in the second period for sure, in recent games. So you were concerned. You were concerned, and I know I was concerned. And I just think that this was a tough one in this period because you're hoping to get something. You're hoping to get the equalizer, and it just didn't happen for UNO.
No, and unfortunately, we dig a little bit of a hole. Swaney gets another goal, um,
Right at that point, there
and we're yeah.
at that point we're talking about him getting the hat trick. He had a
You're
really good
starting to
game.
wonder:
Yep.
is he gonna go one? Two, is he gonna go 1, 2, 3 and get it in the third? Is he gonna get it now? I was like, and he had a couple good opportunities towards the end of the second too. So I'm thinking, oh, we're just. I mean, we didn't play. I wouldn't say that we played bad. It just
No,
things were just weren't clicking.
things just weren't clicking, and we weren't getting any sort of sustained pressure in our offensive zone. And that's the thing. What I would say is, I mean, we were outshot both periods, but we did not get very many good looks on net. And as we talked about before, we're the kind of team that really a lot of our scoring opportunities come in transition. And not only were we not getting those opportunities, but when we did set up in Minnesota Duluth's defensive zone, we just weren't getting that many good looks at the net. Some opportunities, but not as many as we'd been getting in recent games.
Right, and we talked about that in a previous podcast about they need to have more of a an eye for the net and do a better job of finding ways to get around screens, getting pucks to net, getting bodies to net, and we just really weren't doing that at all. Like and passes were off and things were behind and in player skates. It just top to bottom, it just wasn't great.
No, it really was not. So the third period comes. At this point, I don't know what's. I will say, full disclosure, since we're superstitious, early on in the game, and I can't remember if it was after Duluth's first goal or not, Jolene, who the last two games had sat in the basement, I think the last game anyway, had sat in the basement to help UNO's fortunes and UNO. She notified us by text. She's like, just so you know, I'm working. So I'm not sitting down in the basement. That might have been the first sign of trouble. I was wearing a pair of glasses I don't normally wear. So during the second intermission, I went and put my contacts in finally. So,
Oh
I mean,
man, we're a superstitious bunch.
it seemed to help. I think. I don't know, but Jolene did not go down to the basement at that point. So it was still precarious early on in the third. We were worried. We weren't sure how it was going to go. Duluth's an awfully good team. It's tough when you're down 2-0. They've had good goaltending from sophomore Fanti during this entire pod hockey format. So we weren't sure what was going to happen. And then UNO benefited from a 5-minute major penalty.
And say there was, and it was a weird, like I don't know, when I went and watched it, I guess I was just following the play and I didn't really see what it was that they were initially reviewing. And then they kicked him out and they showed the replay and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was so far behind the play. What were you thinking?
Yeah,
I'll
right.
take it. I mean, finally one goes our way, but I'm just like, I didn't even see what the original call was, just because the camera was following behind the net, and I just didn't see anything that I thought was, all that bad, and certainly not warranted them going into the box.
By that point, the puck was someplace else.
Yeah. But yeah, they had a good look at it, and when you watch the replay of it, it certainly was, contact to the head with the puck gone, and there was just no reason to make contact at all, let alone to the head. And we make pretty quick work of it. We were like 10 seconds into the power play, and Chase gets his goal on the power play.
Yes, he did. And we had some other opportunities on the power play as well. But that obviously was the one that went in. And Chase Primo had a good game. He had been one of the players who had looked good throughout the first two periods. So good for him. He cuts it. It's 2-1 at that point. Now I will have
Yeah,
to.
his line with Weiss and Ward was certainly, the one line that seemed to be getting production in the first and second periods when we didn't look were. And I think a
Right.
lot of that's just Primo just knowing where to go, and his demeanor at center just, seems to really kind of make that line. Um, and so, yeah, it was good to see him, get one in. And then we take a couple penalties, unfortunately, which ends the 5-minute power play for us and actually ends up putting us for a short period of time on the penalty kill. But the penalty kill for UNO has been a bright spot this pretty much in this entire NCHC pod. I've been very impressed with their ability to, when they go a man down, to fight and battle and stay in lanes and do the right things.
Yeah, and one of the big ones, and this was one of the ones that fans were talking about a lot on Twitter, and I think that this came during the 5-minute power play. Um, but I don't, but maybe not. It may not be. I texted for confirmation. Bridget said she didn't think so. So there was a great opportunity where Jack Randall pops it into the net. The puck was out. It was outside of the crease, but the ref, who could not see where the player was and where the puck was, had gone ahead and blown his whistle. And most fans online, UNO, Denver, other teams' fans, thought that they blew it a little bit too soon.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those, the rule, the refs are supposed to blow it dead when they can't see the puck. And
Right.
unfortunately, I don't know which ref was down behind the net, but he needed some help from the other referee, because the other referee should have been able to see that the puck was loose and should have yelled and waved it off. I don't know if he did and the other guy ignored it or what, but it just didn't seem like the refs were on the same page with that one, because it certainly was a case of that puck was loose, and it wasn't a UNO player on top of their goaltender. There were more Duluth players laying down on their goaltender than there was one UNO player. So I don't
The,
think you can make that argument, but it is what it is.
it is what it
And
is. You
you're
can't do anything
frustrated,
about
but
that. That would have been great. That would have been a great opportunity for UNO. At some point along the way, and this is where I get to tease Jason a little bit, at some point along the way, we're texting Jason and Jolene about something, and then Jolene sends us a video of themselves outside on the homemade ice rink that Jason made. It's finally gotten cold enough for that. They were out there skating, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going? We have to do a podcast later, and Jason wants me to carry game analysis here by myself at third. You could tell it was a frustrating game. We didn't know what was going to happen at that point. I'm seeing video on my TV of two teams playing. I'm seeing video on my phone of Jason, Jolene, and the girls skating on the outdoor rink. I don't know what's going on at this point. I'm just at this point. I'm like, boy, you can tell it's normally we have burnout that happens. It usually happens like in March, but apparently it's happened in mid-December because we've done so many games the last few days and we've watched so many games. We're just, our eyes are starting to glaze over.
to be honest, it was after the first two periods. I was like, you know what? I've got to go out and just like skate off some steam, because I wasn't happy. And
Did you
I
get,
thought I was gonna make it in back inside in time to see, but I think we were like 3 or 4 minutes behind or something by the time we got back in.
I was going to say, did you go out
So
during
clearly, I need a better time, or I just need to. What I really need to do is I just need to take the TV outside and hang it up on the wall, and then I can just skate and watch hockey at the same time.
Yeah, and obviously your rink's on the side of your house, but if you could find a way to put it somewhere so it was near the patio, you could mount a TV out there and then have that thing on. That would be great. Did you guys go out during the second intermission then?
Yeah, we went out during the second intermission.
That's what I figured. So yes, I thought I would tease you for that because it's like now I'm gonna have to remember all these nitty gritty details and the stats aren't always immediately online because we record this generally right after the game. So I'm like, what the heck? They're outside skating? What? I mean, if you want to talk about whether fans should be at the games or whether people should wear masks at game, I could talk about that for hours by myself. Just hit record and I'm ready to go. But otherwise, so thankfully Bridget texted those guys and so I don't know what was in the air or the drinking water out in West Omaha today. I have no idea, but thankfully Chayse'n did come back in and thankfully he could.
And clearly it worked. Like getting out on the ice, it got us back in the groove.
We scored a goal while you were out there. Yeah, maybe.
Because that quick strike by Primo was the one that we missed. Well, that we missed live. I mean, I went back and started the third from the beginning and watched it all, but we were like I said a couple minutes behind.
Maybe you should have stayed out there
just off and
should have just stayed out there just a little.
Cushion.
You should have just stayed out a little bit longer, Chayse'n, so we could have gotten the equalizer earlier. Yeah.
Instead we had to wait until about 2/3 of the way through, and then Taylor Ward nets his, which was
I'm very
really nice play.
Very happy for him. Very, very happy for him. I think he's going to get going here in the next couple of games, and I think this is going to open up the spigot. The goals are going to start flowing, and I was very excited to see him get that goal because he'd had a good game up until that point as well. He and Primo both were really solid players in tonight's game. So it's 2-2 that point, and you're thinking anything could happen. You had no idea what was going to happen. Ultimately, we did not get a regulation win in the third period, although we had our opportunities in the last 2 minutes of play.
We had some good opportunities, but couldn't get it, and then went into overtime. And the best thing was, and this is the thing that really frustrates me about our power play. Just it's been okay at times, but I mean I think we finished like 15-18% or something tonight. I mean we really need a power play that's clicking over 20%, and we don't have it right now. But we get for fans that maybe haven't caught up or something, it's 3-on-3 overtime. We get a power play less than a minute into the overtime, and we're skating 4-on-3, which with our team and our skill sets and that's a lot of space for our guys to get creative with. And I really thought that was going to be the end of it. I really thought we were going to find a way to get that power play goal in overtime. So
unfortunately it didn't happen, but I thought so too. No. I thought when we got that, that was going to be a great opportunity. So we went to our first shootout. So we ultimately in the record book it went down as a tie because the 3-on-3 5-minute overtime ended 2-2. But in order to determine the extra conference point, we went to our first shootout of the season, and that was a pretty entertaining shootout.
If you like shootouts, this was a good one to watch. I believe I said it in one of the other podcasts. I'm not a huge fan of the shootout, but it was exciting.
Yeah. It was definitely exciting.
I think UNO ends up pulling it out. The hero of the game, Chase Primo, was.
Yep,
Primo. The hero of the game. I mean, what was it? Was he? Were we in 8? I think.
I think we were because we were in
round 7.
I'm trying to think. We were, we'd already done the first round. So where were we? We were. we'd already done the first six skaters. Was it in?
I
Was it
think he
eight? I
was
think it was eight,
round
right?
7. Was it 8? I can't
I'm
remember if
trying
it
to
was
remember.
round
Did
7 or
did
round
one
8,
of
but
the Duluth guys? I don't know. And I'm here on the UNO
right
site.
before right before Primo scores the winner, uh, was the one that Duluth came in and tried to beat Seville glove side with kind of a little flip play that a lot of people apparently reading Twitter uh, thought that it was in, but when you watch the replay, it hits the post and comes right back underneath
Oh yeah,
Seville,
it
and
was
so
it was so fast. It was like you saw the puck go behind him, and you assumed there that all right. Let's look. I don't know. Let's see what. Okay, I'm looking here.
does
So we got the
does
chase
I would
one.
say does someone have it? Because I don't remember seeing it on anything, but
Yeah, that was okay. So UMD shooter loses the puck. Again, I'm going by Bridget's tweets here. So
oh okay.
yeah, so you had Chase. Before that, you had the UMD shooter. Bremer was denied before that. So Conley had a beautiful his shot in that shootout. His thing was gorgeous. I did not think he was going to get it. Beautiful, beautiful one. So
Yeah,
yeah, nobody's got stats for me. You have one job, guys. Update the box score. Let's get all that update because I got to tell you
I don't.
their live stats
Th-
thing is just it's a pain in the ass. Ever since we've been doing these podcasts, I'm just gonna it's a little aside, but every time I look at this live stats thing, you click on something and then you lose where you were. It's come on sidearm sports, come on Learfield, let's get this thing. Ugh, drives me nuts. Anyway, yes, okay, back to the
well,
continue.
to that point, like on NHL sites and stuff, that when they go to the shootouts, they're usually pretty good. Not pretty good. They do put in there, right away, what skater were they successful, so what round and that stuff. I wish someone would do that because I don't know anyone who puts that out there.
Right.
Like USCHO doesn't, and then College Hockey News doesn't. So it'd be nice if one of those organizations said, you know what, we could put that down there. That's not too hard. Then we would be able to recall that better on our podcast. So
Yeah,
help
because
us out, people.
it's hard to remember. That's why you put the stats out there. You don't just put it out there for you know
You know what someone's gonna say? Someone's gonna say we just need to start keeping our own stats, and then we don't have to worry about someone else's.
I guess we could. Boy, I don't know if I had to take notes during these games. That would make become like a work assignment or something. But that would probably be helpful if we did. So basically, what we know here, folks, is that Chase Primo got the shootout winning goal, and it was redemption for him because I think he had an opportunity in overtime to get the game winning goal, and it just went off the UMD goaltender. It went off Fanti's skate. It looked like at the side of the net. So that was for their first shootout that was great. They get the extra point, so they got 2 points out of this. And Jason, tell us what's going on in the standings at this point. Unless they unless unless
Well,
they don't have the standings updated, in which case.
that puts us point wise, at least. That puts us in second place. St. Cloud, North Dakota play. So one of those teams will, at least one of those teams will leap ahead of us. But um, it puts us in a good position, right? Like we've talked about this in the past podcasts about what was going to be successful coming out of the pod and how many games we wanted to win, and who we thought they'd get the wins through. If you go back and listen to one of the episode right before the pod, we talk about looking at who we're playing, where we think the wins are going to come from, and what we think their record's going to be coming out of it. And I don't know that either of us really saw wins against Duluth, just because that team is a perennial
Yep.
powerhouse in the conference. So it's really good to be able to get points there. Now, looking ahead, we've got Western Michigan and we've got Colorado College coming, and so those are two teams that you're now expected to beat, and we need to, make sure that we take care of business there, and ideally walk away with 2 wins there.
But those are
Yeah.
two games that we could very easily lose.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
mean Colorado College is playing really good, uh, considering everything that they've been through in the late entry to the pod and all that stuff. For them to be sitting ahead of Denver, well, I guess not in points wise, but in points per game ratio that College Hockey News is using and USCHO is using, but it just in raw points. I mean, to be sitting ahead of Western Michigan and Miami, they're in a good spot.
well,
And
and
so they're going to
yeah,
be knowing that they need wins to maintain their positions. So they're
well,
not going to be easy games.
and you look, we put 10 goals up on Western, and we put 6 goals up on Colorado College. So you would assume that we would be the favorite in those games, but those two teams have had their struggles during the pod format, and so I'm sure they're
Right.
going to be gunning for us. And if we play like we did today, especially the first 2 periods, anything's possible in those games.
I say,
So you just never know.
yeah, who knows? So it'll be good games to watch.
But
Should we do players of the?
yes, but like you said, I just to add to the on the standings, it's great to see them competitive and competing for those top 4 spots. Whatever happens, you want to see a team that's in the mix, and in recent seasons we haven't been in the mix, so it's great to be in the mix. So
Yeah, and in that conversation of who's the top team in the NCHC. So
yep, exactly.
so players of the game.
Players of the game.
You went first last week, so I could go first this week, right?
Yes.
So I get to take the no brainer, Chase Primo.
Yes. You could chase, and the biggest thing is that's one of Jason's favorite players. I know Primo is
He wears my number 13. There we go.
Chase Primo had a terrific game, so that is an excellent pick.
Now you get the hard part of who. Do
Yeah,
you take
now I've got to pick an obvious choice would be Taylor Ward. He had a great
Okay.
game. You picked Taylor Ward in our last podcast a few days ago. So there's that. I could go with Isaiah Seville. While it wasn't like one of those shutout kind of games, he really kept us in the game during the first 2 periods. And that was a key because honestly, after those 2 periods, we could have been down, 4-0 at that point, and it would have been impossible to claw our way out of that. So you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Isaiah Seville in net. It's the second goaltender in a row that I've picked. I picked Roden the other night against St. Cloud for getting the 2-0 shutout, but I'm going to go with Isaiah Seville because he had some hellacious saves, some terrific saves, and always a good solid goaltender in there. One of the best in the conference, one of the best in the country, and one of the best we've seen in recent years on UNO's roster. So I'm going to go with Seville with a close second to Taylor Ward. It seems like he's getting back on track, and it's good to see the junior doing well because he's a really important player on this roster. So it's good to see him get going.
The other player that we've seen a lot from is Weiss.
Absolutely.
And
yep.
He played a really good game. He got
Yep.
assists on the goal, and I think even the goal that he didn't get an assist on Ward's goal. I mean, he was a driving force on that goal. So he wasn't on the score sheet, but I mean, if you watch the game, it's hard to say that he wasn't playing some of his better hockey, and so I think that's a good sign for us, and that line seems to be really gelling, Ward with Primo and Weiss. So
Yep, he's really come into his own this season. He's been really good during these pod games. So kudos to him. He's one of the players you and I've liked, and I think his game has become more refined this season. Yeah, we don't see the guy who's trying to dangle defensemen and do all that kind of stuff. He knows what he needs to do, and he's putting the puck in a position for a goal to be scored, whether he's putting it on net or he's putting it in a position for one of his teammates. So, yep.
So we get Thursday off. Friday we see another afternoon game against Western Michigan.
Yes, yeah. So it's I don't know. How do you feel about these afternoon games? I as much as I didn't like recording the podcast at 11 o'clock at night, I it's hard for me to get pumped up for these 3:35 p.m. games. So
It's it's weird watching hockey when the sun's out, kind of thing. It's like, wait a minute, what's
well,
going
and
on?
then and
But
then and then Jason's tempted to go outside and skate on his personal
I
outdoor
know.
rink. So there's a lot of unpredictability during this thing. We have no idea what's going to happen, but it's weird while the sun's out to do that. So, but it's kind of a nice change of pace. We get this thing done early. So, yep, we got
Yeah,
Western. We got Western. One of our favorite teams to talk about.
something like that.
Oh boy.
You have some thoughts on what's going to go down on Friday?
I have no idea what's going to go down on Friday. I think you look at Western. Western is always an enigma. There are some games we dominate them, and then there are other games where they dominate us. This has been a tough pod format for them, but they've gotten wins against St. Cloud and Colorado College in this. They lost two tough games against North Dakota and Denver coming into this. So I guess anything can happen. They're playing better hockey though. They can score goals. One player in particular seems to score goals in Omaha. This will be the last time, presumably. I don't know what they're going to do for the postseason in the conference if and when we get to that point. Um, but this will be the last time we see Western Michigan in this regular season. So, are you shedding any tears over that? Because I'm not. I'm going to say
I,
UNO wins. We're not going to have it's this is going to be a tough one because we beat them 10-2. They're going to be mad and they're going to want to prove that was a fluke when they play us this time. I'm going to say that UNO. I'm going to say UNO ekes out a 3-2 win over Western Michigan.
your your player in question getting your 2 goals.
God, let's hope not. Let's hope. But maybe because he seems to be the guy who's scoring for them here in
Uh,
here in the pod at Baxter Arena. So he may very
Ethan,
well be.
yeah, Ethan Frank's he's a good player. Um,
Yep.
he seems that this is he grew up here, so
Yep.
it's nice to come home, and I think that familiarity of the surroundings and stuff, and having friends and family here, is certainly a comforting factor for him. Obviously, in the pod it doesn't matter probably as much necessarily, but
He's their
he
lead.
is. He's a talented guy. He's got a really good shot. He's a hard worker, so
He's their
he's certainly a
lead.
guy I would like to see in a Mavs jersey, even. But
He is their leading goal producer with 5 goals on the season, and he's got 7 points overall, 5 goals, 2 assists. So he's doing well. And then two other players, Paul Washi and Josh Pasolt, two other names that we hear a lot with that team, are also doing really well this season. So yeah, I'm sure Ethan Frank going out against the local team, the team that he grew up watching. I'm sure that he's going to be loaded for bear. This is his last chance. This is exciting for him. Exciting for him to show the local fans, the people that he grew up with, what he's made
well,
of. He wants to send one final last goodbye to the UNO hockey fans and the UNO hockey team, the program that spurned him. He's got something to prove, as he does in every game, and this is his last outing. He's a senior, so yep.
well, I'm gonna say that Ethan gets his hat trick in his potentially his last college hockey game in Omaha. I'm gonna give the kid his hat trick, and I really hope he gets it. But I'm picking UNO to beat him 5-3.
I don't.
So
Wow, Jason is so. It's It's Christmas. It's the time of giving. So Jason's being, I don't know what's going on with him. He leaves the game to go skate outside in his home rink today, and he's picking one of our kind of nemesis forwards in the NCHC. He's picking him to get a hat trick. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know what's going on right now. Who
He
knows?
gets the hat trick, but they still lose 5-3. That's a decent outing, I think.
If we stay on this podcast much longer, Jason's going to be saying that he hopes North Dakota beats St. Cloud State tonight in the in the second half of today's doubleheader. So
No, we need St. Cloud to win, so we're rooting for St. Cloud.
that's I am anyway. I don't know what Jason's doing, but so 5-3. That's the type of score that seems like it could happen in a UNO Western game. So that may very well. It's but Friday afternoon, so get your work done early if you go into the office.
Put in for vacation time.
Work, just take the day off. Take the day off and enjoy some hockey.
I mean,
yeah.
Use the excuse of UNO's playing at 3:30 and see if your boss says yes.
That's right. That's right. Gotta support the home team. So yeah.
That's right.
Okay, Jason. I think that's all we've got for today. As always, be sure to follow Mavpuck on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook so you can find links to all of our social media at mavpuck.com, as well as back episodes of this podcast. And we have recorded a lot of podcasts the last 2.5 weeks.
Yes, we have.
It has been a marathon, so it's been fun, but it's kind of exhausting too. So until next time, until Friday afternoon, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.